What's up everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to dive into the latest chapters of Hajime no Ippo. And yes, I finally caught up to the current chapters. The current arc focuses on the WBC lightweight title match between the challenger Mashiba Ryo and the current champion Marcus, the bad boy of Puerto Rico, Rosario, whose personality just basically boils down to a guy that likes to shoot his gun and make gun shooting noises. And let me tell you, this fight is pretty wild. But before we break down the match itself, let's talk about how insane the lead-up was to this match. First off, Rosario straight up disappears and cannot be found until the week of the fight, basically like the day before the weigh-in. Turns out he actually got arrested. Yeah, we're dealing with that type of boxer or person, just like Brian Hawk, just like a bad boy, whatever. And to make things worse, when he is found and does come to the weigh-in, he actually misses weight. I think he's like 1.5 pounds over, and he has to dehydrate himself to extreme levels in order to make weight. So let's just sum that up real quick. Rosario was missing and not training and was actually in jail leading up to the fight. He shows up to weigh in overweight, and he has to dehydrate himself to extreme levels, so much so that he's not going to have the stamina to fight the entire 12 rounds. Now, on the flip side, Mashiba has been taking this very seriously. He even sparred with Ippo, where Ippo kind of mimicked Rosario's movements and his boxing style of infighting, but as a southpaw, and that really helped Mashiba sharpen up his tool set for this fight. Now, the fight starts off pretty much, how you'd expect every Ippo match to go. A lot of back and forth. And then in the later rounds, it ends up turning into a slugfest, of course. Rosario, I believe, gets a knockdown, and so does Mashiba. But there is one key moment where Mashiba, I think he throws a hook, and he actually slips and tumbles. Remember this moment, because we're going to bring it up later. But going into round 7, Rosario is pretty much gassed and spent. He can't really go anymore. So he decides to throw one last Hail Mary counter punch against Mashiba's punch. And because Rosario is a southpaw, he leads with his right leg, and it gets tangled up with Mashiba's left leg, which causes Mashiba to go off balance, which then leads to Mashiba missing his punch and Rosario's counterpunch landing square on Mashiba's face. And it seemed like it did a lot of damage. Mashiba's going down at this moment, but at the last moment, he stops and adjusts his body and throws a devastating uppercut to Rosario. Similar to how Ippo does his uppercuts with the Dempsey roll, that's the kind of uppercut that Mashiba throws. And this allows Rosario to fall back to the ropes, one arm over the ropes, pretty much spent, saying in his monologue that he's, it's all his fault, he didn't train, you win, Mashiba, just hold on to my belt, I'm going to be back in Japan and avenge my loss. And Mashiba starts cocking his signature Sunday punch, the chopping right. He cocks it back, and he starts throwing it. Everyone's screaming, reach, go. And of course, at 1 centimeter from Rosario's face, Mashiba stops, and then he collapses to the ground, and he ends up losing the match. Now, we don't know exactly what happened and why he collapsed, but apparently people are theorizing that when he tumbled, he either broke his neck or his spine, or something ripped or broke in his body that made him collapse shortly after when he tried to deliver that chopping right. And honestly, this is super annoying and infuriating. I mean, the loss is really annoying for Mashiba because Rosario literally did everything he could to lose this fight. I mean, he went to jail, he didn't train, he came in overweight, he had to dehydrate himself, like he was completely gassed, and it was basically, he was practically giving up at the end and was just gonna take the chopping right and go down, and he still ends up winning the fight. And it's just really infuriating and annoying. But other than that, what I really did like about this arc was Mashiba's character development. In this arc, he finally accepts Ippo as good enough for Kumi, and lets Kumi go and be like her own person and an adult. And he starts to he thanks his coach. So it's really amazing. It was really awesome to see his growth as a person. But now with this loss, and especially with the injury he might have, he might end up retiring with boxing. And that kind of sucks, because I would love for him to continue to box, because I want him to face Miyata, so Miyata can have his revenge. But if he is going to retire, this is a pretty good way to retire. I mean, he kind of grew significantly as a person and accepted Ippo and thanked his coach and let Kumi go. This would be a really high note to retire on. And also, he did lose similarly to how Kimura lost to Mashiba. He threw a punch and it just barely missed. It didn't reach. And another interesting thing to note is when he was throwing that chopping right, if you look at the reactions, everyone is smiling except Takamura, Miyata, and I believe Kumi. And that just shows like Takamura and Miyata probably saw what was going on before the punch. Just shows how much of a world expert they are, or whatever world boxing IQ acumen they have. But the Kumi one is interesting. But anyways, this arc, this like loss, it kind of reminds me of what Coach Kamigawa, Ippo's coach, said one time to Takamura when he was facing Brian Hawk. He said, "Not everyone who works hard is rewarded, but all those who succeed have worked hard." That is a fantastic quote, and it pretty much sums up this arc perfectly. Mashiba worked his ass off, but in the end, it just wasn't enough. But let me know what you guys think. Did Mashiba deserve better? Will he retire? And what's next in the Hajime no Ippo world? If you enjoyed this breakdown, please make sure to like and subscribe and join the Questionable group chat. And with that, I'm going to let y'all go. Peace.